Hello, I'm Peggy Vasquez. I'm an international speaker, a connection coach, and I'm also still working full time as a chief executive assistant. I have a very full life. I live in Washington State and I'm married to an incredible husband, Renee. Together we have 4 amazing children and 6 brilliant grandchildren. In addition to my family, I am also blessed with a powerful inner circle, a group of people that are focused on helping each other grow and become the person that we desire to be. I've experienced the benefits of a powerful inner circle and genuinely want to help you so that you can begin experiencing the same type of power in your own life. What did you want to be when you grew up? Think back to that little boy or that little girl that you were in grade school. What did you dream about? What did your heart yearn for? What did you only tell your best friend that you wanted to be because you were too afraid to let other kids in the classroom or even your teacher or your family know what you really wanted to be? Because what if they didn't believe in you? What if they didn't support your dream? And so you kept it close, you protected it, and you didn't share with very many people. Think back to that young person that you were all those years ago. I wanted to be a speaker and an author from as far back as I can possibly remember. I grew up next door to the grade school, and every summer I would dumpster dive. I'm not kidding. Every summer I would dumpster dive for teaching materials. And I would go home and play teacher to anyone who would listen. Most of the time it was my sisters or neighborhood kids, and sometimes it was even just with my Barbies. When I started babysitting, man, I had a whole new audience. My grade school best friend and I used to write stories in spiral binders and pretend we were authors. It's no surprise that today we are both published authors. When I saw my first professional speaker, I knew that was exactly what I wanted to do. There was no doubt in my mind. I remember sitting there in the audience and having tears stream down my cheeks because the dream was so real. It tugged at my heart profoundly. And ever since that time, I've wanted to be an author and a speaker. And yet I struggled to make that a reality. I knew I wanted to do this, but I just couldn't figure out how to get started or figure out how to find the opportunities. I slowly started to get some speaking engagements. I'd speak once or twice a year at a conference. And then every once in a while, I would speak here or there for an organization. It was very incidental, and I was struggling to get more opportunities. Then one day, all that changed. Not only was I attracting more opportunities and being asked to speak at conferences and for various companies, I was invited to speak at a conference in Dubai. I hadn't even been outside of the US at that point. And then I was invited to speak in Dubai. And shortly thereafter, I was invited to speak in London and South Africa. And all of this because of one woman. Her name is Lucy Brazier. I met Lucy on LinkedIn about 5 years ago. She lives in the United Kingdom and owns a publishing company. It all began with a post she made. She wrote a post about the value of partnerships, and I made what I thought was an insignificant comment on her post. I simply told her that I appreciated her article and was aligned with her thinking. I had no idea what that comment would lead to. At this time, Lucy was also building her business and her career as a publisher and a speaker, and that comment meant a lot to her. Today, she has over 45,000 connections on LinkedIn, but back then, she didn't. Back then, my comment meant a great deal to her. She was just getting started herself and clearly sought that kind of support. Within 6 months from making that comment on LinkedIn, she invited me to speak at a conference she was hosting in Dubai. 6 months after that invitation, I met Lucy for the first time. We were both speakers at a conference in Las Vegas. It felt like we had been friends for years and that we were the only two people in the room. Everyone else seemed to fade away. Even though we were in a conference room like this with over 350 people, everyone just seemed to fade away. It's somewhat like when you have that best friend that doesn't live in your hometown anymore. And when you see each other, the only thing that matters is that person that's right in front of you. Shortly after that conference in Vegas, Lucy invited me to speak at her conference in London and in South Africa. All of these experiences of traveling to Dubai, to London, and South Africa happened because of making one small, seemingly insignificant comment on LinkedIn. That one small comment led to an incredible relationship and the beginning of a lifelong friendship and partnership. I was ecstatic to become an international speaker. My husband and friends used to joke and say, "You're international, baby." At first, my focus was about the opportunity to travel and on hitting the goal of becoming an international speaker. What I found out was this was only the beginning of what I would realize. What did I find traveling around the world? Sure, I found amazing views, incredible architecture, delicious food, 5-star service, and beautiful, decadent resorts. But it was the people. It was the people in each of these countries that was my biggest treasure. It's the people that I met that I hold the closest to my heart. People like Lucy from London, Laura from Belgium, Lizzie from Paris, Eth from New Zealand, Diana from Germany, Terry from South Africa, Annelle from Dubai, Melba from New York, and the list goes on and on. I found my tribe, my inner circle of women and a few men scattered across the world. We have big dreams, big goals, and together we are changing the world. Here's the problem. Most of us don't have an inner circle. Instead, we are like a crab in a crab pot. You see, fishermen have learned they don't even need to keep a lid on the crab pot because anytime one crab tries to crawl out, another crab will pull it back down. It's the same way for us. We're working hard. We're improving ourselves. We're growing and striving and trying to climb up. But every time we do, another crab pulls us back down. How often do you see your coworkers and other women fighting and competing with each other and pulling each other down? Let me tell you why this happens. We have been set up. That's right, we have been set up for a lifetime of comparison and competition. Literally from your first breath. When you were born, a doctor probably assigned you an APGAR score, a number indicating how your muscle tone and your heart rate scored. Throughout toddlerhood, the assessments continued as your height and weight were constantly compared with your peers. And along came school. With every test, every report card, and athletic event, you got another ranking. Then eventually you joined the working world, competing for jobs and striving to outperform your colleagues to get the promotion. It's no wonder that in our day-to-day lives, and especially in the workplace, people tend to be guarded. We tend to hold back. We start to play the comparison and competition game, which leads to the "I'm not good enough" dead end. We look at another woman, and without even hesitating, our subconscious mind plants questions in our head. Questions like, is she smarter than me? Prettier? More successful than me? Does she have a higher education? A nicer home, a nicer husband, more successful children? The questions swirl in our mind. Along with comparison, competition, and feeling not good enough, comes judgment. As much as we hate to admit it, we all judge each other. We know it's not right, yet it happens. We judge each other in 7 short seconds. Sometimes it's about self-preservation. It's about safety. But most of the time, we judge each other to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. And it works for a little while, but it wears off, just like a night of drinking. You feel good for a little while, and then you find yourself feeling hungover and feeling horrible and regretting what you did or said. Since the 80s, the percentage of American adults who say they're lonely has doubled from 20% to 40%. The physical, mental, and emotional consequences are serious. Some research indicates that loneliness might be as much of a health risk as smoking. If you're struggling with meeting new people and building new, meaningful connections, I want you to know that this presentation is especially for you. A lot of people, in fact, most people, struggle with having real conversations, and yet there is no shortage of people in this world. Here's what we do to try to meet people. We white knuckle our way through one networking event after another, hoping to make a connection. The problem is we haven't been taught how to connect. We've been taught how to network. Some people that planned to go to the last networking event you were at decided not to show up because the fear of not fitting in, of not being good enough was too great. They'd rather miss out than take a chance at being rejected yet again. The reason we have these fears and all this anxiety stems from one single reason. These problems take place because we lack a critical, necessary part of success. And that ingredient is connection. I know you've heard this before. A lot of people talk about connection, but they often lack the critical ingredient for making it actually happen. We're here today to talk about not just connecting, but about the power of an inner circle. So let me describe for you what an inner circle is in action. When you have an inner circle, you have a group of people that are there for you, that have your back in good times and bad, during the lows and the highs, the people that support you and challenge you to move forward, the people that will tell you the truth, even when it's difficult to hear, the people that see your brilliance and encourage and empower you to help you be the best that you can be, the people who will never doubt you, that know who you are and will stand up and protect who you are. Think about it this way. Top executives have an inner circle. They call it their board of directors. They carefully, painstakingly choose each and every single board member to ensure that their vision will manifest into reality. Why not follow suit and create your own board of directors? Carefully choose them. Take a look at every area of your life, not just your career, and create your own inner circle, your own board of directors. When you find people that have big dreams and want to make a difference just like you do, you will be connected deeper than any connection about the weather. You are connected over a purpose that weaves you together tighter than any casual connection possibly can. A connection that is worth taking the time to discover each other. This is exactly what has happened because of meeting Lucy and building my inner circle. My life has been forever changed. Lucy and the others in my inner circle have conversations about our dreams and goals. We share stories, amazing, wonderful stories about our successes. And we also ask for help to move past our failures. We ask for advice and counsel, and we trust each other. There's no competition between us. What is truly significant in having Lucy in my inner circle is that she has propelled my speaking career to a whole new level. When she introduced me as the inimitable, first of all, I had to look it up. I didn't even know what that word meant. And to my surprise, I learned inimitable means so good or unusual as to be impossible to copy, unique. Wow, talk about a confidence booster. How many of you are familiar with the Pygmalion effect? It's a phenomenon where higher expectations lead to an increased performance. This is exactly what happened for me because of Lucy. She treated me as if I'd already become the speaker I wanted to be. Because of this, I made sure that each and every time that I speak for her, that I deliver. Because I don't want to let her down. I care about her too much. Our connection is too tight for me to possibly do anything to let her down. This new level of confidence propelled me forward, and it helps me to believe my dreams are possible. I can achieve what my heart yearned for and whispered to me as a young 20-something woman. What about you? What dreams, what goals has your heart yearned for and whispered to you? Consider for a moment how one seemingly insignificant comment can lead to such a rich connection. One comment. Years ago, when I was in high school, I was in DECA. It was a program that prepares young people for the business world. And through that program, I got a position as a part-time secretary for a furniture company. As depicted by this black and white photo, this was long before computers or even the modern Selectric typewriter. I typed on a manual typewriter, which means that I had carbon paper in triplicate, which means that I had not just white whiteout, but I had colored whiteout, one for each of the colors of the carbon paper. Well, I am so thankful that technology has advanced from those moments. This was truly back in the day. I'd been working there for a few months when my DECA teacher asked to meet with me after class. I sat across his desk and he asked me, "How is your job going?" And I told him it was going great. He then pushed a file folder towards me and asked, "Is this your work?" I opened the file folder, and to my embarrassment, the letter I saw was the perfect example of what not to do. It was filled with mistakes and whiteout so thick that it had cracked. There were grammar and typo mistakes, and it was messy and sloppy. The old typewriters had an ink ribbon, and when you were correcting a mistake with whiteout, you often touched the ribbon. And when you would take the letter out of the typewriter, your fingerprints would be imprinted on the letter, which means that that letter had marks all over it. There's not a business owner out there that would want to sign a letter like that to represent them or their company. So I quickly turned to the next letter thinking, well, it'll be better. This was just one letter. But to my embarrassment, each and every letter was the same. My teacher asked me, "Is this your work?" I wanted to say no. The problem was my initials were at the bottom of the letter. I was humiliated, and holding back tears, I said, "Yes, this is my work." He then asked me the most impressionable question I've ever been asked. "Is this what you want your reputation to be?" And in case you don't think reputation matters, here's a reminder. and another. When I heard him answering that question, my heart sank. Tears were streaming down my cheeks as I said, I don't want to be considered a failure or a poor performer. I don't remember anything else my teacher said. All I felt then and know now was he believed in me. He was kind. He didn't berate me, and he didn't make me feel small. Instead, he wanted to help me. He showed he cared about me enough to talk my employer into letting me keep my job. Can you believe it? I got that second chance. A second chance to prove that I could do better. My employer agreed, and I had that opportunity to prove my abilities and reshape my reputation. That moment of feedback, of mentoring and compassion was life-changing. The reputation and mentoring pieces to this story are profound, but there's one more critical detail in the story. Any guesses? He approached the conversation with a simple question. How is your job going? My DECA teacher took the time to create a second chance for me. What he did by asking that very simple question is he embarked in a process of discovery. That process created connection, trust, and an earnest desire to do well. Think about the last networking event you attended. What did you talk about? If you talked about the weather or some other type of small talk and didn't move past that, are you really creating a connection? Think about a time where the person you were talking to was more interested in passing out their business card than creating a true connection with you. Or the person that keeps looking past you after they ask you a question, indicating that they were just filling up time until someone more important arrived. What about the time you meet up with someone and the talking is all one-sided, where the person waxes on and on about what they've been doing and how great their life has been going? These types of conversations and interactions don't work because they lack connection. It's these types of interactions that give us an anxiety when we hear the word networking. We've all had more than our fair share of these surfacey plastic interactions. Yet we do this all the time. It's our default setting to start talking about the weather or something trivial. If this is what we usually do, what should we do instead? You might remember that my DECA teacher didn't just start by giving me feedback on my letter. He asked me about my reputation, which was a valuable interaction, and it stays with me to this day. But remember, he started with, how's your job going? How's your job going? He didn't just lay into me and start lecturing me. He did a very important and powerful thing. He went through an act of discovery. An act of discovery with me. Most of us rush into something. We tell people how it is and do everything from our perspective and show no curiosity about the other person. How do you create an inner circle? Through the act of discovery. Some of you may know that I used to work for Mike Cluse, the former laboratory director at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. He retired a little over 3 years ago, and now I work for Steve Ashby, the current laboratory director. Mike and Steve could not be more different. They are complete opposites in almost every single way. If I interacted with Steve the same way that I did with Mike, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be effective because they're completely different. So for example, Mike would come in on a Monday morning and he would say, how's your weekend? Which was code for get your coffee, come to the office, sit down, we're going to catch up. And we might sit there for 15 to 20 minutes, catching up on the weekend, what was going on in our own world. And then we'd get down to business. Now, Steve, when he walks in, He says, "Good morning. How was your weekend?" I say, "It was great. How are you?" He says, I'm great." He goes in his office and he starts working. Later, we have a scheduled daily meeting and we go over business. And at the end of the day, we may or may not talk about our weekend. And I have a fabulous relationship with both of these men. I had to take the time to actively discover each of these men well enough to know what they were interested in, what their goals were, and how to help them be successful. This is the same way it works for creating a connection with other people and creating your inner circle. An inner circle is a group of people that are mentoring one another. It isn't about a mentoring relationship where someone is better than someone else. Quite the opposite. Each person in your inner circle is giving and receiving, teaching and learning. The role of an inner circle is to share knowledge, skills, information, and perspective, all for the purposes of fostering personal and professional growth. A mentor is someone who sees you not just where you are, but all the potential that is inside of you. They believe in you. They support you. They are your champion and will help you move forward. They won't do the work for you. They won't tell you what to do, but they'll help you find the way. How many of you want a mentor? How many of you want to be a mentor? What is a challenge you're struggling with right now? Now imagine, what if you had someone that you could call, that you could arrange to meet with, that if you had no other option, that you could email them and ask to talk about that challenge? It would make such a difference in your life if you had that powerful inner circle that you could reach out to. We all need each other. No one, absolutely no one, succeeds alone. I encourage you to get started in your mentoring journey today. I encourage you to create that powerful inner circle. Consider the people in your life that you respect and admire, the people who are where you want to be, and then be bold enough, brave enough to ask them to be your mentor. Most people are genuinely flattered to be asked. Don't let fear hold you back from one of the best relationships you'll ever have. There's not a chance in the world that I would be where I am today without a mentor. I've had many mentors in my life, and I've hired many coaches as well, and I encourage you to do the same. Your life can be completely different based on the people that you meet and that you allow to influence you. One of the people that I discovered in South Africa was Atreya. I saw her during the reception the night before the conference began, and I couldn't help but notice her from across the room. She was small in stature, and yet she was beaming with this beautiful glow. I introduced myself to her, and we had a wonderful connection almost immediately because we made eye contact, smiled, and let our guard down. We started asking each other questions and listening to each other. It was a beautiful moment of connecting with another person. The next day, after I finished with my presentation, she motioned for me to come to her table. She started talking about energy in a way that I had never heard before. She explained that she could see my energy connecting with each person in the room. She said the reason why is because my energy had been there before. She was talking so profoundly about energy that my mind couldn't keep up. My spirit knew what she was talking about, but I couldn't completely grasp it. I felt like a kindergartner next to this wise soul. And remember, I work at a national laboratory where brilliant scientists talk about energy almost every day. Later, I learned that she works for Archbishop Desmond Tutu. No wonder she was so wise. What I found out is that she'd been doing a lot of mentoring and helping others by sharing her story, but it only talked to people one-on-one. Do you think a person like that has the potential to influence a room of people? Obviously, she has an amazing story and incredible energy. So what happened next is I told her she had so much to offer by sharing her story with others and would be an amazing speaker. It turns out she doesn't even have a problem getting up in front of people to speak and could see herself doing that. She just had never considered being a speaker before. What I did for her by making the decision to walk across the room to meet her is I created a connection by discovering who she was, and I inspired her to share her value with others. If you look at mentoring and inner circles as only how people can serve you, then you're really going to undermine your greatest potential, because it is also how you can show up and mentor others. How do you do that? You go through an act of discovery. I came to understand who Atreya was, and I saw the value in her. Even though I felt like a kindergartner compared to her, I found out that I have something to offer as a mentor just as she did. I had a profound insight to offer her that could have very well been life-changing for her. Often you'll hear people who give motivational speeches talk about potential. They often say, each one of you have potential, which is a nice idea, and I want that very much to be true. But what I want to impart to all of you is that you may very well have untapped potential that you haven't yet realized. The question is, how do you realize it? You have a gift that you can offer others. And the way that will happen is for you to go through an act of discovery. What I want for each of you is to not be passive observers of your own life, but rather go through an active process of discovery, form your inner circle, and then not only will there be people there for you, but you will fully realize your greatest potential by being there for them. On my slide, you're going to see a link that will take you to a discovery cheat sheet. The 5 questions to ask any person you meet. Please take advantage of this cheat sheet so that you can start creating your own powerful inner circle today. I'd love to continue the conversation. I'd be honored to work with you. You can reach me through my website. I look forward to hearing from you to help you start connecting with others and building that powerful inner circle. I guarantee you it will be life-changing.